Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to another Plotting and Scheming Extra. I am joined by most of the regular team here today for another character kit reveal. We're working on RC-1262 Scorch. All right, I am joined by Dagger, TJ, and Sasha Aisha. Fatal couldn't be with us at the time of this recording because we are within minutes of GAC lock for the first round of season 67 5 versus 5, and he is in a mad scramble to get his mods set to go. So we're going to get this one done, and
And just putting the man on blast.
no, that's what he's up to. But he did say he doesn't have a lot really to offer in the way of insight about this kit because it is pretty straightforward in its role. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. But yeah, how's everybody doing? Dagger, how you doing? How you feeling?
Fine.
Good. Fully recovered. Doing cartwheels in the front yard.
No, I was going to mention that on the in-between because that's more chronological than these videos.
That's fine. Anyway, TJ, how you doing?
Scrambling for lunch and in between meetings, so it's a busy day.
I believe in you. Sasha, how about you? How's it going?
Good. I've got kind of the chaos of moving my house this week, but otherwise life's good.
You're moving?
I'm moving. Yeah, I'm moving.
That sounds fun. I mean, not for the actual time of the move, but the actual
Right.
move. Like, yeah, I remember when I moved and the kids were just like, "Oh my god, it's just excitement." Dude, even the pets had like a week of just exploring a new house.
Did you not move just recently, though?
And so that it was all in prep for this task. It's taken forever. Long story. But no, this is the move that was supposed to happen 6 weeks ago that is actually happened this weekend. And yes, as Dagger said, like, even though I have two jaded teenage daughters, I'm actually getting enthusiasm and excitement out of them. So that's a nice fringe benefit.
All right. Dig that. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys being here today. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Unit name RC-1262 Scorch. Alignment Dark Side. Categories Tank, Clone Trooper, and Empire. Key attributes: Tank to complete the new Dark Side Clone Squad. Like all the Dark Side clones, works best with Lord Vader leading the charge, but can also work well with Tarkin. Introduces new buff Bulwark that is reminiscent of reinforced hull for ships. Strategy tips: Breaching Charge applies damage over time to all enemies, tying into the damage potentials of DCT and Lord Vader. Use Entrench to recover your health and protection and gain the powerful new Bulwark buff. And then RC-1262 Scorch's defense capabilities are bolstered even further in Grand Arenas, especially when used in combination with other Darkside clone troopers. All right. Start at the uniques like we usually do. He has just one. All right. Unique one.
Also, hi, Fatal. Because Tass told the whole world you weren't going to be here. So welcome.
I did. I just said that you were tied up, scrambling, getting mods done, because, that is important, for sure.
I heard the word ships mentioned, and it sent me flying across the continent to do whatever I could do to be here for ships discussion, so...
No, now I feel bad because there was no ships discussion. We just mentioned Razor Crest.
No, you mentioned it. That's all it takes, man.
See,
you don't ever bring up the S word. You never bring the S word to any fight. All right, that's kind of dirty, Fatal.
No, I just had to get desperate enough to just cut the bounty hunter squad entirely from my mod loadout, and that got it to resolve. And I was like, okay, I'm safe.
Having heard about you fairly recently getting bitten by what you thought was the right loadout just before lock-in, I sympathize with you wanting to be damn sure it doesn't bite you twice.
It's unprecedented times. Like, actually realizing, hey, you just don't have enough 5-dot mods to fill in slots anymore was like, I didn't know that was a thing that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
I just love how thematically consistent it is. Like when I thought Fatal was battling, Hot Utils or something to get his modding by the deadline, then I'm like, it is once again Fatal and his arch nemesis out there, wrestling in the cosmos, and that arch nemesis is time itself.
Mhm.
And it's just a perpetual battle.
Like every
Like it doesn't matter if
stream.
it's a GAC expiration or if it's a lock in or whatever it is, fatal battling time.
Yeah,
Well-
it's not like a stage fright thing, right? Like it is his relationship with time overall, in the game, outside of the game, before the GAC,
Yeah.
after, whatever.
I'm not totally sure he experiences it linearly either, but that's another conversation.
Well, not to spill over into next pod, but there was more to the season prep than I expected by like a huge margin.
Ooh, tantalizing! I'm
Good.
excited.
That should
That's
be
cool.
fun. Well,
Well, good to
anyways,
have you, man.
the moment you just joined here is great. We were just about to start in on the unique, so you're here at the beginning of the kit. All right, unique 1, following protocol, Zeta and Omicron. Final text. At the start of each encounter, Scorch taunts for 2 turns. While Scorch is taunting, he has plus 25% defense and tenacity. Whenever he loses taunt, he gains 25% bonus protection for 2 turns. While he has Bulwark, he is immune to speed down, stagger, and stun. Whenever an enemy dispels taunt from Scorch, they're inflicted with Order 66 for 2 turns, which can't be copied, dispelled, or resisted. If that enemy was a Jedi, Order 66 instead lasts for 4 turns. Whenever a damage over time inflicted by Scorch expires, he gains 10% bonus protection for 2 turns. At the start of battle, if there is an ally Grand Moff Tarkin gains 200% potency. Scorch assists whenever Tarkin uses an ability, and the first time Tarkin would be defeated, he instead gains Deflective Ward for 2 turns or until he receives damage, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented, and recovers 50% health and protection. That's just the base part of the kit. While in Grand Arenas, and this Omicron is active in both 3 vs 3 and 5 vs 5, Scorch gains 50% max health, max protection, and tenacity. Whenever he loses taunt, all Darkside Clone Trooper allies recover 15% health and protection. Whenever he gains taunt, he dispels all debuffs on himself and all other Darkside Clone Troopers. Whenever he gains taunt, he dispels all debuffs on himself. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I am.
I believe in your ability to use words.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Task can do visual words. You don't doubt that man's ability.
All right. Let me read that Grand Arenas section over again from the top. Scorch gains 50% max health, max protection, and tenacity. Whenever he loses taunt, all Darkside Clone Trooper allies recover 15% health and protection. Whenever he gains taunt, he dispels all debuffs on himself, and all other Darkside Clone Trooper allies gain 10% turn meter. Whenever he uses Entrenched, he gains an additional 5 stacks of Bulwark. The first time each other non-galactic legend Empire ally is reduced to 50% health, Scorch taunts for 2 turns, and that ally recovers 100% health and protection. So, does that mean that by default, he's going to kind of be the first person we have to kill because it seems like going after Oppo like you might otherwise prefer seems like a bad idea? Like there's a couple things trying to save the allies now, giving them, protection up, bonus protection, bunch. Anyway, food for thought when we get to the end. All right, up to his basic. Exterminate with extreme prejudice. Final text. Deal physical damage to target enemy and dispel all debuffs from a random debuffed Empire ally. If the target enemy had Order 66, reduce the cooldowns of a random other non-galactic legend Empire ally by 1. Special 1. Breaching Charge, cooldown of 3. Final text. Deal physical damage to all enemies, inflict 2 stacks of damage over time for 2 turns, and off balance for 2 turns, which can't be copied. They can be resisted. Special 2. Entrenched, cooldown of 4. Final text. Scorch taunts for 2 turns, recovers 25% health and protection, and gains 5 stacks of bulwark for 2 turns, which can't be copied. At the start of battle, if there is an ally Lord Vader or Grand Moff Tarkin in the leader slot and not in the ally slot, bulwark can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. Darkside clone allies gain protection up 25% for 2 turns. And then bulwark is defined as plus 150% defense per stack. Lose 1 stack of bulwark when receiving damage. That's the whole thing, guys. So I'm thinking get 5 stacks of bulwark active from. Then what did it say later on?
So under Lord Vader, when you lose taunt, you gain marked.
Whenever he
So I wouldn't
uses
worry.
entrench, he gains an additional 5 stacks, so up to 10 stacks of bulwark. Yeah.
Yeah. So when his taunt gets dispelled, doesn't he gain mark under Lord Vader?
I should think he would.
So, man, that bulwark you probably want to hold until you actually have it expire, because once the taunt is dispelled, you also then get the additional mark, which they can't dispel.
Yeah, as an offensive team, I think it makes sense to use.
So, but it's a 4-turn cooldown.
Yeah, it is a 4-turn. You're getting one, probably
Yeah.
one shot.
What is the ability that says he gets what's the CDR? Is there any other CDR in this team?
I want to say
Halo?
the CDR is from the basic, right?
No, I know, but his is a random. I'm asking if there's like a team-wide CDR.
There is not. At least not that I
Okay. So there's no way to like cheese this unless you like spike roll the basic to reduce his own cooldown.
If you really wanted to like Piet mark on Scorch and like take a look at all the other clone clauses to like, but yeah, crucially, like the Oppo and Nightfall basic only works for attackers. The special only calls supports. They were the only way that you're really getting Scorch assists or like ways to cheese cooldown is like Tarkin, maybe.
Yes.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like on the Lord Vader team, like he's not going to be pulling the trigger on this bulwark ability like every other turn or whatever. That's all I was.
No, it
that
looks
was
like you
really
get
what made
about
me
once a
nervous.
fight, maybe twice. Like it's comforting to know that the AI prefers using the bulwark ability special too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm trying to think of how this is going to play out over the course of a fight. Because if there was CDR on this team, that would be a really nasty ability to refresh. If it was like a 3-turn or 2-turn, if you could get it to pop again after you were trying to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah. Fair. As always, guys, feel free to share your observations here about the kit. But as far as talking about modding, I toyed around with speed and defense and found that I could get him up to about 345. And I was thinking about what I might do to try and push him higher, because originally I had suspected that he might use his first special first, the AoE dot and off balance. And no, it turns out he uses special 2 first. So that really changes the value proposition of speed in any case. And so I decided to go for all defense. Now, I guess, I went with
I wouldn't go really quick. I wouldn't lean too hard into defense because bulwark is going to like make that not super necessary.
Sure.
But
So
I
you would
definitely
just go
lean
pure
into
health or something?
or tenacity.
Yeah, tenacity. Interesting. Well, let me show you what I'm thinking here, and I can probably work something up here while we're talking. But the idea is I just thought to, in the couple hours we have between unlocking him and GAC lock, was full defense sets. I went with protection primaries, but I don't have as robust like health primaries with protection secondaries to go the other way or anything like that. So it ended up being that protection was going to be the better way to go. 79.2% armor. I went with a potency cross, thinking to get some value out of that middle, which is otherwise, that first special, which is otherwise kind of a dud, really. I don't know how good this is going to be, but I found that compared to a couple other people that had already modded up theirs, my defensive stats are competitive, if not superior. And then I have about 100% potency besides. So that's kind of the angle I was going for. Now, please share more about what you were thinking there.
Oh, like the way defense scales, it there's diminishing returns to a degree. Bulwark is a ridiculous amount of defense. I'm not saying that isn't where we'll end up, but I think, at least in my opinion, I wouldn't start there. I would start with tenacity with maybe a potency cross or something, because I'm thinking of like trying to stop him from being like dazed, gaining turn meter, cycling back to that bulwark ability. Not getting ability blocked so he can use his AoE. I don't know. I feel like he doesn't, like you said, he leads with a second special, so I feel like he doesn't need speed. Unless you're putting speed on him again, I say that with the caveat of if you don't care, like if you care about him cycling back to bulwark as fast as possible, I almost like speed tenacity. Because that way he's going to take more turns and he's going to be harder to ability block, etc. So I don't know. I don't really know.
I don't mind that.
My
That's
brain's
actually
pulling
not
me
a
in a lot
bad
of different
idea.
directions regarding this character. So I'll let Fatal give his 2 cents before I decide in the next 20 minutes how to mod mine.
Yeah, we can all scramble together.
Yeah, there's a few moving parts here. Real quick, just because I had to think about how to say this because I don't understand this. I had the good fortune of knowing people who were smart enough to understand this. So defense, as I understand it, doesn't actually have diminishing returns. It's just the mathematical phenomenon. I forget the proper term for it, where the closer a percentage gets to reaching 100%, it's harder to make progress. But the actual gains that you see are still normal. So it looks like you're adding more defense and adding more defense, and you feel like you're getting less armor percentage. But in reality, the gains to your effective health are the same, which kind of dips into at the same time though, I don't know, maybe it's the relative percentage gain of armor is smaller if you already have 1,000,000 armor and you're adding 1,000 versus 1,000 plus 1,000.
I say diminishing returns is a colloquial way to say that once you get to a certain point, it might just be better to put stats elsewhere.
Yeah. With regards to potency, so there's two weird things happening here. So I think when Scorch came out, everyone was salivating at the whole 8-dot potential. And you already talked about the AI issues. So Oppo does his first special and Scorch does Bulwark.
Right.
So technically they're both trying to line it up on turn 2, but at that point
Yes.
LV's AoE has probably already been cleansed off anyway, that it just doesn't really feel realistic. So the reason why I'm cold on potency is really just kind of I mean, in GAC, he's already given the 20% turn meter on top, so we already know Oppo's going first. So it's not even haha, I did 2 dots on you, and LV did 2 dots on you, and then Oppo's gonna go. Oppo, unless you're very deliberately trying to downclock Oppo to line up against Scorch, which I don't think is something worthwhile, it really just is not going to matter how they line up relative to each other. So the first special to me kind of just ends up to be perfectly honest with you, when I read the first special, it reads to me as they're trying to set that up for the Tarkin kit, where he's looking for clones to be resisted, and then you want to demod him for potency, and then this just represents a bunch of potential turn meter. I think in LV squads, for the most part, the ability is super low consequence, but to that end, I would say think about your Royal Guard, right? The boy wonder that we've had for ages.
He will be missed.
That man barely got to play the video game. That
But
my personal
to Dagger's point, the benefit and to what you're saying about Royal Guard, the benefits of Royal Guard were just passive. We really barely depended on him even getting that first special out. Whereas we do want this guy to take turns. So I'm sorry, you were going to say that?
No, I don't disagree that it would be nice if he takes turns, but unless tanks come with very, very specific reassurances, I don't know that I trust that they will get there. It's kind of where I'm at. So I kind of just put him on Royal Guard style modding. I put him on 82% armor, 300k health, 290 speed, and just Yeah, good luck, bud. Guys. I mean,
Here. Did you
there-
bias
there
for
are
health
bugs.
or protection for primaries?
Protection. His base pool is like ridiculously protection stacked to boot,
There you go.
and I think the Omicron is defaults 50-50 of each, so it's even distribution on top.
So if he's
Um,
getting 25% tenacity, what is it? Plus while he's taunting, plus 25% tenacity. Arenas, and then plus
Yeah, I
What do
have
you?
around
plus
What do you?
50%
So can I ask?
tenacity
while he's taunting.
besides.
While he's taunting, he'll be around 180 to 190 for me.
Right. So can I ask?
Mhm.
You're trying to do a thing to push to tenacity, but if you go look at his unique,
Yeah.
he's immune. So while he has bulwark, he's immune to speed down, stagger, and stun. So the
Yeah.
stuff that would slow you down are the things you're looking to avoid. If he's going to go into bulwark anyway, and now he can't be
But he can be
sped down.
TMR'd and ability blocked.
Yeah, and he can also be ability blocked before you go to use the bulwark, depending on what you're doing. I don't know, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the tenacity is that I want to make sure that he isn't hindered from using his abilities. And again, I'll probably change this for week 2, but like this was my initial lock in thoughts that I kind of put him at.
I think I could easily see something like a 4 and 2, like 4 piece of tenacity, 2 piece of defense. Try and get a lot of, try and get a sizable amount of tenacity just through those 4 mods, because I still want to see if that potency cross is going to be worth it. And I hear you out, Fatal, on what you just said regarding it feeling kind of like a dud. And if it's going to be good anywhere, it would be good under Tarkin. What I was thinking was, back before I knew that he does special 2 first, the idea would be to have him fastest of everybody just after Lord Vader, right? Then he would go CX2, then Oppo, then DCT, taking advantage of the added dot stacks. That was the original theory. And then after it was confirmed that Special 2 went like that, okay, fine. So he's going to bulk up, and then yeah, what if they do cleanse? What if they do cleanse off Lord Vader's stuff? Okay, well, having him put some dots back on starts to rebuild pressure. Off balance is nice if it lands. I mean, if it did actually land on 4, 5 targets, that would be nice.
Well, his base potency is complete doo-doo crumbs.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to say this.
It's 35. It's like 35%. Like I'm not here to try to tell anybody that
It was not the easiest thing to find it all without going to a 2-piece of potency, granted, but I did. It is a doable thing. And I don't know if it's worth stretching for, but I did. So, but anyway, I take your point about some added tenacity would make up the little difference of gap between, when you're taunting and not. So, what do you guys think about that? Sasha, TJ, I know we've really been crowding you here. You nearly queued up. There you are.
I don't know. I nearly queued up, but okay. So I am going to go a different route of just low-hanging fruit right now because of a couple of concerns. We'll see what week 1 data looks like, and then what I get to see out in the wild. I'll probably make adjustments from there. So it makes it kind of tough to go with initial thoughts.
Sure, but if you had him right now, ready with minutes to go before we lock in,
I do have him ready. Relic 9. I pushed what we talked about before, and I'm sticking to it until I can see something different. So I pushed him. I'm feeding into the protection up aspect of it because it's there all over the place. So I went to the health. Having the fastest on the numbers. That's what I'm kind of going off of. But the logic that everybody's saying also makes sense. I need to see it out in the wild to determine how it was. And it was pretty easy to go that way because mine's all Relic 9. It was just, it's a no-brainer. You're going to do it anyway. So I just went that route and then kept everything else on the turn order seeing it in the wild if we see something different, because I am interested to see here. The tenacity makes sense, right? That's why I wanted to ask the thoughts, because some of the other stuff is out and ability block would suck. TMR and anything else we're doing. I don't remember. It's just LV who can't be reduced. It is, right, on his team. It's just LV.
I
So
think so, yeah.
so that ability makes perfect sense. The potency check, and like what you called out, also, it's like it feels like I'm trying to think of the character. There's another character out there we saw when it first came in, and there were so many different ways she could go. I can't even think of the Jedi taunter, who's not even a taunter. But she had like 4 different ways to go, because there's a piece of her kit that does this, a piece of her kit that does that, and then how does it all look? And listening to everybody here, I can see the point of defense. I can see the point of tenacity. I can see the point of potency. I can see the going into the protection up. How is this all going to work? So it makes it tough. But initial for me right now, I have him the fastest, right under. I got him to 350, and then it's pushing into the health speed build. So he will absolutely be out there and just running wild. There is some defense into the natural secondaries that I did, but that's where I'm trying to keep it. I want the turn order to see if this is going to be effective.
Wow, killer.
I took it on auto just to see what it would do against certain teams, and it was flying. So it was like 45-second fights. But again,
to
that's just
Dagger's
taking
point,
up.
if you're ever going to see that special 2 used twice in a fight, it'd have to be at some type of speed like that, wouldn't
That's
it?
the idea, right? That's the idea, right? Is where it's going. Obviously, we know Bulwark's going to be the first thing out. Leia's not going to care about the
Just to make sure, because y'all are talking about clocking Scorch fastest. Scorch does not give himself the turn meter in GAC. It is only other clones.
I'm okay with it. Mine is more.
Side. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, and then obviously with CX2 going, you're giving speed up to your supports. So it's like I get that the turn order is going to go, but that was my idea. I didn't see any gain from what I call the battery doing any of the work by what CX2 is bringing to the tank, right? So it's like, all right, I just want him to go a million turns a mile, whatever it's going to be. Like, put him out there. Let's get him going and moving to get to those points of interest.
To be clear, Fatal, TJ and I talked about the idea behind what to do with him a few days ago, and we came up with like a speed build, but that was based on those previous assumptions about the
right. What is he going to do?
Yeah, I got you.
So he's advocating just for the speed, independent of any type of clocking thing.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's the idea of just trying to put them in order. But I agree with you, Fatal, that the other pieces aren't really putting into the mechanics. It was just the initial idea of there is a lot of potential for damage to come out just on a turn 1 with the correct alignment, and depending on what happens and what you're going against. And so that was where I was trying to lean into from some of the pieces, because CX2's idea, if he opens up and he's giving the team all these other additional pieces, that's where I was leaning towards. But again, this was not knowing what AI was going to work with, not knowing what we were going to see once it all came to fruition. I'm okay to be wrong week 1. And then once we see it, and maybe he needs to be the 4th guy because all these other pieces are going in. So, and then maybe it's to like what Taz said and what you said, Fatal. It's like there's some okayness with maybe a 4 and 2. He's so tough, man, to see what it's going to be is like what we'll call in air quotes the correct build, or the one that just optimizes the team to its fullest potential.
Yeah, I think that something that seems to be a consensus here is that we're looking to get some type of value out of the cross. Could be tenacity, could be potency. It may well just be tenacity. Fine, but the point is that probably not bulk 1, right? So for anybody wanting to be really fast, ideally you'd be able to use a very fast bulk arrow and be able to forego a speed arrow, and then get the benefits of a non-protection cross while still basically keeping the protection about this.
I'll tell you, I had I'll just add my 2 cents in here. I'll start by saying, like, I don't think that my Scorch is like dialed in or like expected to be a lasting build, but I did go very heavy on defense. I didn't lean into either tenacity or potency right out of the gate, in part because, and I know this is a common theme with me, is like I want to wait a little bit to understand the predatorial landscape and sort of get a sense of what's coming after it, and then I'll tune it in because I think those can be particularly effective or rendered moot depending on what's coming after, assuming I'm setting it on defense. But the leaning into defense is a stat because I think I totally see where Decker's coming from. The reality is Bulwark is this huge boost, and you do have this sort of perceptible diminishing returns that's happening there, where it's like, hey, if you go from 80 to 80.1, how big of a difference, or 80 to 85? The reason I still leaned into defense a bit there is because we've got armor pen on existing sets, and there is, like, as I kind of look at the math of the armor pen defense, like damage mitigation race, it like it ends up being like, yes, like nominally, like on its face, I have this like excessive amount of defense with Bulwark. But when you factor in somebody's probably coming after me, particularly in matches I'm looking at with like, oh, they've got 200 something percent extra armor pen, that it brings me back down to a more sensitive range of defense where I like getting that extra amount. So that was my thinking for now. Like I said, it's like half baked, and I want to see what's out there. But that's what led me to go very heavy on defense, and I even went with a bulk cross, and I think I've got like a little over 80% defense on my Scorch.
He is easy to build defensively,
Right?
like his numbers. He starts with a naturally high, and I'm not talking just base kit. I was looking at it and I pushed him damn near to 70 without even trying. So he does have a really good defensive setup. But understanding, obviously, there's armor pen out there. It was still nice to see that he does have, minus what I think you want, which would be tenacity or potency,
Right.
that there's some defensive viability, and that's just taken into account. Here's his base number.
Mm-hmm.
Do
you guys
we
think?
want to?
Sorry, please.
No, you go first.
Well, I was going to I was going to ask a different question. Circle back around to my question about the unique from earlier. So please.
I was gonna derail to left field. So I insist.
Okay, all right then. Please. The idea here is, this unique says, that it's going to, the first time each other non-galactic Legend Empire allies reduced to 50% health, Scorch taunts for 2 turns, and that ally recovers 100% health and protection. You've also got a protection up, I think, coming out of CX2. We're generally thinking that Apo's still kind of priority number 1 to kill, right? I think the utmost priority is to prevent his second turn and not get the AoE out.
Yep.
But if that is the case, do we still go after him directly? This is kind of splitting the difference with a Malicos, savior type of thing. On top of the other survivability granted by teammates already, right? So is it still, you guys still think it's going to be viable to go directly after Appa? Let's say you can ignore the taunt and get around him, whatever, fine, you're able to otherwise get around. What does that look like for you? You still going to go for Appa, or do you think the only way out is through?
Him not being able to move and or go takes a large chunk of what you're going to feel from the team, in my opinion. Again, I'll hold to that. I get that there's other mechanics going on that we're looking at it. I get LV's increased, but if you go watch any fight I've ever seen right now, if Appa touches you, and then also the other clone gets to do something, I'm literally killing GLs, like bulk Leia, and if you set the right thing up, it's like Apo just destroys you. I get there's magnet damage by disguise that they can do the thing as well, but Apo getting to do anything is a bad time.
Do you think just going and bullying straight after him is how you go about it anyway?
I would want, with most things that you're doing, it hinges in Apple in the corner. Yes, CX2 is what I would still call a battery for what it's doing for the team. And yes, I understand that there's some kind of viability, but if you get the bypass taunt and the other things like that, Apple getting turn 1, the next turn is the big boom. And people will fade away. And that's, to me, a concern where I don't want to give them the ability to do turn 1 to get to turn 2.
Okay. All right. How about the rest of the room here? Any thoughts on that for kill order?
I imagine Scorch is kind of trying to incentivize you to kill him first, probably, unless you're. And it depends on which counter we're talking about, right? But like, Mon Mothma has hype right now that people are going to be trying to ram their face into that potentially. It
Yeah,
depends on how
but for limited time only, because CG already put out the word that they know about that and the BKM thing, so they're looking into that. And their previous message had already made it clear that if you're basically using something that isn't a GL to attempt the new, latest and greatest Lord Vader with dark side clones, you can go pound sand, Jack.
So I'm gonna counter their point. Go ahead and go pound sand unless they're going to correct datacrons in nature. Getting out there is a pretty good thing that the team will get the game. I've seen some other things, and I know we've talked about it, and I'm not putting it here because I want to wait to see what week 1 holds. But I still think there's other viability with datacrons right now that puts you in a bad spot and has the potential to just drop an LV team. And I'm not talking about Mothma. I'm not talking other things. I'll wait to see if what I think is going to be correct. But unless they're going to adjust datacrons, which they've also historically said, we'll generally let it go for the 4 months, and whatever happens, happens. And we have how much time left before this last set is out? I doubt that they're going to mess with it. But I would still hazard that there's something out there when you have a full team of 5 that's going to stop LV pretty hard.
Okay. So we got 2 votes for killing Scorch and then 1 for Oppo. I know Dagger had to step away for a second. Sasha, you got a thought on that?
No. Go ahead. Fatal, you were going to jump in?
No, I was gonna say, do we want to talk about the elephant in the room? Because we keep on talking about week 1 results, but the results are already in, kind of. We don't need to wonder.
For those of
Here
us
there
that
be
haven't been
monsters.
tuned in, I'm curious to hear.
Here there be monsters. There is a bug that will pretty much doom LV week 1 unless CG acts fast.
Yeah. Here's hoping they do, because it is ridiculous.
Yeah, you're asking me who do you kill first, and let me tell you, Scorch will kill himself for you proactively. You don't even have to try.
Yeah, you want to tell the
Just
folks at home about how that works?
Yeah. Well, so we don't entirely know. I got tagged the moment that Barb posted a test video on the server, and then there was a weird shit show of people arguing whether it was intentional or not. But I'm like 99% sure it's not intentional. Basically, as far as I can tell, so dramatic entrance, you do damage based on somebody's health, and so when you use Bo-Katan, and you get damaged by dramatic entrance, there are multiple assumptions happening here. I'll be trying to be clear on that. But one assumption is dramatic entrance appears to be self-inflicted damage, so it counts as the Mandalorian squad inflicting true damage for purposes of doing ancestral damage. And then the even weirder leap of logic is that it only seems to be affecting Scorch, even if Scorch is not the person who's hitting them. Like, it's literally like this invisible counter attack. Like, LV would hit someone and then Scorch would take damage. And so, like, and it's not even on the first round of turns either. Like, the whole thing is a shit show. This is one of the most ephemeral bugs to try to track down and, like, explain. This is me grasping at straws of, like, I think this is the rule set of what's happening. Why?
When you say it's ephemeral, do you mean that it's not 100% reproducible?
Well, it didn't happen on the first rounds of battle. It only happened on everyone's second turns.
But happening on the second, does it happen only on the second turn? Like, first of all, I understand it never happens on the first turn. It always would happen on the second turn. Does it only happen on the second turn, or does it happen on second and subsequent turn?
Past turn 2, you don't have dramatic entrance anymore, so
okay.
Well, I guess it has a close to keep it, but like most of the time you're not going to see them.
Yeah,
But
so if for
yeah,
some reason
so-
you survive your first turn while still having it, you would be dead by the second turn because of it.
if you were truly like trying to just like enterprise against the Bo-Katan bug, you would mod your Scorch for full health and protection and just hope that he doesn't die to ancestral.
That's true.
Um,
True.
yeah, you would just go sheer or health and protection. But
Yeah.
I just said like, fuck it, man. I'll just go down with the ship. I'll go 300k bulk, and if I don't have health sets, I don't have health sets. But and then the Mon Mothma thing. What do you all think about Mon Mothma?
Well, I think that it's if it's able to work like like I said, they've already put out an announcement saying they intend to look at it, and that makes sense. But the way that it has worked, and the way I've seen some clips of it, it's awful. It works like you would otherwise think it. These could have been any
Right.
other 4 Yahoos in with Lord Vader, of a Empire persuasion, and the result would have looked the same. So pretty depressing to see that, but again, it's not what they intend to have stick.
If it was RNG to win, how would you feel?
Better, but it didn't look like that. Because correct me if I'm wrong here, because the idea would be Lord Vader does crush, Kyle Katarn does dispel, and you're off to the races. This is with Mon Mothma Kron turn meter level 6, Mon Mothma level 9. I imagine you could get you probably don't have the complete turn loop without the set 21, but you could have a fairly reasonable opener and possibility if you were running a set 20 cron. That's my gut on it, but disabuse me of my assumptions.
No, this wasn't a leading question. This is more so just like, as you said, CG kind of planted their flag in the sand of we will step in, and then all of a sudden, okay, we're drawing a line of the sand, and now is the nuclear deterrence of like, well, okay, how much is too much to cause action? How much is acceptable? If Mon Mothma could win, ignoring Datacron sets at like 40% win rate, is that acceptable or causing action?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think a lot of it kind of ties into the meta / sort of nature of that matchup. Like, I do know, like, if I'm facing folks who lean heavily towards efficiency, that the sensitivity to RNG is so much higher for them. And like they won't shy away because they're not maybe as comfortable setting a defense that they expect to generate a hold of its own. And so as like as a repulsion of the like super cheese efficiency meta, I feel pretty good about it. But just generally, I'm not a huge fan of like matches coming down to RNG. I like it if it discourages cheese, but I don't like it generally. That's my reaction to it, Fatal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If a lesser counter that CG expressly means to forbid could work at all in those conditions, that would be a welcome Hail Mary just to have as an option, I guess. But yeah, I think it's right that for the level of investment and everything involved with the characters, resource investment, something like Mama. It's certainly not as easily as what it looks like. So good on them for at least it's saying it, but saying that they're going to get on it and them getting on it are two different things. So we'll stay tuned on that. Fatal, was this elephant in the room thing the left field that you meant to take us on earlier, or was there yet another item?
No, I was. That's why I held off on it. I didn't want to open up the Doom door just yet while there was still conversation to be had. But
No,
I will say
it's relevant. It's relevant discussion. That's fair.
I don't mean to get anyone's hopes up, but I am seeing, because LV clones are kind of an anticipated team at this point, right? There was some community buzz for it. At least in the event server, there was a lot of vocal pushback, and I will be curious to see if the visceral reaction that we're getting out of this, and I think frustrations might be boiling over a bit. It's not on me head to begin with, but that functionally, when you're in these sorts of situations, the amount of vocal pushback gives Meat ammo to go make cases and say, look, like, there's a problem here, right? It gives him more ammo to work with.
I'm sorry. The easiest answer, in my opinion, is to, okay, so we look at it. We have the bespoke Datacron. This is an instance where they should adjust the bespoke Datacron to stop the indication of what is absolutely helping the win, which is another Datacron. So I'm not saying that they put a case, but they could easily do the level 9 and say you can't gain turn meter, or you can't do something else, or something else in the Datacron level 9 that pushes it away. I'm not saying remove the ability to beat the team. I'm saying we're not going to see it any stronger than with the bespoke. Once we get them out in the wild, so because the idea is it's going to go to 4 months in 4 months, right? Because we have the current set that still has a turn meter, and you're watching my Mothma already do this like it's not like it's nothing. Because again, 40% feels right, but put in the level 9, call it like a JMK to where you can't push turn meter or something else in the level 9 just to level it out, that you need to go use an SLK, that you have to go use a Leia, that you have to use something that if you're not a GL, that's the only thing I would say. Not saying if you didn't buy it, you're screwed. I'm just thinking that you're supposed to be showing that this is the roughest team, and we had talked about it in 3s, and 3s felt strong. We're now in 5s, and a team of 5 measly rebels are chomping at the bit to take out your investment. And if you went hard to get Scorch as well, with and again, another Omicron, and it still comes back, the Mothmas beat it, that's, in my opinion, where they should look. Put the bespoke, update it, adjust it, and then just set it to where you do need something like a GL to kill.
Yeah, they can update the bespoke in as far as if it's any contributing factor to these lesser counters being able to take it on. But the ultimate solution to preventing stuff like this should be built into the kit, I think, into the base part of the team. You know, divide it out amongst whatever team members you want, but I think it should be part of the base.
I saw someone mention that they might just like, the clause on Apocaron of when a dot gets cleansed, you or when any dots get cleansed, you make one locked, one back. That they wouldn't be shocked to see like that become base kit.
Yeah. Only one dot, so at least it's just symbolically locking that out and not putting down an impressive number. Just one stack.
It could be it could still be a stack. I think the 1 dot is fine, but I also thought doing a 1 dot bring back and then it adds 1, because you're on a ticking time bomb, right? If they get to the 8 and they've done it, you have to have people down, right? So I could see adding it and then it being a stackable 1 dot. Does that make sense? So it's like 1, 2, and then you're going up. It's not saying we need to get multiplicative or anything like that, but it would be nice to say, oh, you've gotten to the 8 and it's locked. You're pretty screwed now.
Yeah, I mean, you could even split the difference and say, that idea of the locked one here in 5 versus 5 sounds like it could be too much. It's like, well, what if you don't have it be locked if the opponent's using a GL against you? Because at that point, it's like, okay, we've already got the level of investment that the devs intend for you to have committed to it, so you don't need to have that enabled for that condition.
I think that's a fair assessment to say if no GL in place.
Would it be better to pick this up on the in-between?
Yeah, we'll pick it up. We'll. I intended this to be a topic
because
as well, but it kind of just organically 20 to 30 popped up
talking
here.
About. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, we're coming up on like an hour of a kit review, and a lot of this would be really good in the in-between.
Yeah, we'll definitely dig back into this. All right, well, guys, appreciate you joining me for this one. I expected this one was going to be a bit longer anyway, because every time we're wrapping up a team kit, there's going to be some discussion. So appreciate that, guys. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you, in the next episode of Plotting and Scheming to talk about how we're going to plan to use this for week 1 and see how it goes. Until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.